A bombshell on Capitol Hill. A group of Republican senators holds an urgent press conference, making a stunning accusation that the FBI, under the Biden administration, secretly requested their private telephone records. They call it outrageous, a disgraceful behavior, and the latest proof of a deep state conspiracy to weaponize the Department of Justice against its political opponents. The story has all the makings of a major political scandal. But is it true, or is there another side to this story that the senators conveniently left out today? On the Capitol Report, we take you inside that press conference, show you the explosive claims, and then we do what they didn't we, analyze the crucial details, ask the tough questions, and uncover the real story that might be hiding in plain sight. To understand today's accusations, we have to go back in time. The relationship between President Donald Trump, his allies in Congress, and the FBI has been fraught with tension for years. Central to this story is Special Counsel Jack Smith and his wide-ranging Arctic frost investigation. This investigation led to the indictment of President Trump in August 2023. The Republican senators, led by Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson, claim that just 2 months after Trump's indictment, the FBI cast a wide net, requesting the phone records of at least 8 sitting Republican senators and 1 House member. They argue this is a clear pattern of political targeting, connecting it to past grievances like the investigation into the 2016 Trump transition team and a briefing they received about the Hunter Biden laptop. Their narrative is simple: the FBI and the DOJ under Democratic leadership are corrupt, partisan, and out of control. Senator Bill Hagerty, one of the senators on the list, then framed this as part of a long-running pattern of corruption.
I'm just going to open this news conference. I think you ought to hear from my colleagues here what they think about what we just have released. I think it's a bombshell result of my oversight work, working with Senator Johnson here. I think we've uncovered that these senators that are with me and a couple that aren't with me had their telephone records requested by the Biden FBI, or from the Biden FBI, requested these records, violating the privacy of these senators that are with me. There's no predicate that we can find for the solicitation of these telephone records, which I think emphasizes the political weaponization that was behind all this effort. And we're still getting more information, but we've released some records today, and I'll let Senator Johnson take over from here, and then each one of you colleagues can join in when you want to, whatever you want to say.
First of all, I want to thank Senator Grassley. It is because of his relentless advocacy for whistleblowers that a lot of this information is surfacing right now. We wouldn't know about the list of 100 Republican entities that were targeted by Jack Smith's Arctic frost investigation. I don't think we know about this as well. So we need whistleblowers. I think Dan Bongino and folks at the FBI, they don't know where all the records are hidden. They still don't. They're not necessarily getting 100% cooperation. But this is outrageous what has happened. I just want to give you a timeline of this. I think you've already got the FBI sheet that shows the number of members of Congress that were targeted. Representative Kelly, Senators Graham, Hagerty, Hawley, Sullivan, Tuberville, myself, Senator Lummis, and Blackburn. Now, this memo was dated September of 2023. To put it all into context, the Mar-a-Lago raid occurred in August of 2022. Jack Smith announced the indictments against President Trump in August of 2023. So this is almost 2 months later. They're casting this net, this fishing expedition against members of the Senate and the House. Again, I've been investigating this with Senator Grassley. This doesn't surprise me, but it should shock every American of what the Biden administration has done. By the way, this is the first time I was targeted by the FBI. Under the Obama administration, the same thing happened to both Senator Grassley and I. As part of the Foreign Influence Task Force, we were giving a briefing to try and convince us that the Hunter Biden laptop was no big deal. Basically, trying to throw us off the track. So this is major corruption that's being revealed inside the Obama and Biden Department of Justice, the FBI. And I'll turn it over to, I guess, Senator Hagerty, who's one of the individuals. Again, none of us were subject to targets of this investigation. There's no predicate. There's no reason for this other than a fishing expedition, which again should outrage and shock every American. Senator Hagerty.
Senator Bill Hagerty, one of the senators on the list, then framed this as part of a long-running pattern of corruption.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. And Chairman Grassley, thank you for your leadership in making this happen. This is an extraordinary revelation that just took place this afternoon. My colleagues and I found out, all of us Republicans, by the way, that we were placed under investigation by this FBI, under the Joe Biden FBI that was led, I presume, by Jack Smith and his predecessors. This isn't the first time that it's happened, though. Senator Johnson just mentioned this. I served on the Trump transition team in Trump Tower in 2016. Senator Blackburn was vice chair of the transition committee then, as were probably a dozen or more members of Congress. To think that we were all surveilled back then by the Obama FBI. This corruption runs deep, and it's gone on for far too long. And the fact that it's happened here again, the fact that they are looking at our records in 2023, sitting members of the United States Senate. Again, the only thing that we have in common, the only thing in common in this entire list is that we're all Republicans. They've decided to come after us. This is as partisan as it gets. The FBI and the corruption that's running there has to be cleared out. Thank God we have Kash Patel and Dan Bongino there. This has to be addressed. It has to be resolved. It needs to happen today.
But it was during the question and answer session that a crucial, and perhaps the most important, detail was revealed.
What was the time frame of the phone records that they sought?
January 4th through, I think, January 8th or 7th. It was a limited time period around January 6th, 2011, or 2021.
The senators have presented a narrative of political persecution. It's a powerful story. But as we always do on the Capitol Report, let's analyze the facts they themselves presented. The single most important piece of information in that entire press conference came at the 10-minute mark. The phone records the FBI requested were for a very specific limited time period from January 4th to January 8th. This isn't just a random date. This is the exact window of time surrounding the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. This crucial detail, which the senators spent very little time on, changes the entire context of the story. It raises an obvious and critical question that the senators failed to address. Was the FBI engaged in a baseless fishing expedition? Or were they conducting a legitimate national security investigation into communications surrounding one of the most significant attacks on American democracy in modern history? The senators also repeatedly emphasized that the FBI obtained their phone records, but they conceded that this did not include the content of their calls. This is a critical distinction. Acquiring call metadata, who called whom, when, and for how long, is a standard investigative tool for law enforcement to establish connections and timelines. While obtaining a sitting senator's call records is a major step that requires legal authorization, it is not the same as wiretapping or listening to their private conversations. The senator's use of broad terms like targeted and surveilled seems designed to blur this line and create a more sinister impression. Finally, let's look at the story of how this was discovered. Senator Johnson explains it wasn't a whistleblower, but a low-level FBI employee who listed this action on a recertification application, which was then somehow discovered. This is an unusually specific and somewhat convoluted explanation. Is it a credible account of a bureaucratic slip-up, or is it a carefully constructed narrative to protect a source while making the FBI appear both sinister and incompetent at the same time? This brings us to the core of the debate. The senators want you to believe this is a clear case of political weaponization, a continuation of a corrupt Obama-Biden agenda. But the facts they presented allow for another interpretation that the FBI was legally investigating communications related to the January 6th attack. And now, the subjects of that inquiry are using their public platform to try and discredit the investigation and the investigators. The story presented by the Republican senators is a serious one, with grave implications if true. But their press conference left critical questions unanswered. They focused on the who themselves, but spent very little time on the why and the when, the aftermath of January 6th. They painted themselves as victims of a politicized FBI. Yet they offered no alternative explanation for why their call records during that specific, critical week in American history would be of interest to law enforcement. This leaves the American public in a difficult position, caught in a battle for the truth. So we ask you to consider, is this a bombshell revelation of a deep state conspiracy against Republicans, or is it a calculated political counterattack designed to undermine a legitimate investigation into a national security crisis? Let us know what you believe in the comments below. And for more in-depth analysis that goes beyond the press conference, subscribe to The Capitol Report.